I once thought of thunderstorms just as beautiful things, magnificent masses soaring high into the skies. After I learned how to fly, I learned another aspect of thunderstorms, the harm they can do to airplanes, large and small. Since thunderstorms may be the most threatening weather you'll ever confront, it's time to talk about them. Suffice it to say that thunderstorms are the enemy, and they demand our respect. Now, one very hazardous atmospheric phenomenon that you'll find near thunderstorms is wind shear turbulence. Wind shear occurs when the wind changes rapidly, either in direction or in velocity. In the vicinity of thunderstorms like this, it's doing a lot of both. We'll discuss wind shear more later, but be aware that where there are thunderstorms, you'll also find wind shear. Another phenomenon that you'll always get with a thunderstorm is lightning. Even if you have a big cloud and even if there's rain coming from it, until someone sees lightning shooting out of it, it's simply a cumulonimbus cloud. But as soon as that lightning is spotted, by definition it becomes a thunderstorm. Now, thunderstorms come in two flavors. First, there are isolated thunderstorms like this one. They're usually associated with convective lifting. They're also referred to as air mass thunderstorms. Second are thunderstorms that are associated with a front, like these, which surprisingly enough are referred to as frontal thunderstorms. Sometimes frontal thunderstorms are embedded in cloud masses. These are especially dangerous to instrument pilots who do not have radar because they can blunder into them without seeing them. The most dangerous thunderstorms of all are squall line thunderstorms. As we mentioned earlier, squall line thunderstorms are very narrow bands of very active thunderstorms. They typically develop in front of fast-moving cold fronts, and they produce the most intense weather hazards to aircraft. What kind of hazards? Well, how about possible tornadoes, large hail, very heavy rains, and strong winds? Squall line thunderstorms are hazardous for a number of reasons. First of all, they have a long life cycle. They also move rapidly and tilt or lean over, which extends their lives. And they have oodles and oodles of energy entering them. So how do thunderstorms form anyway? Well, for a cumulonimbus cloud to form, you need three basic ingredients. You need a lifting force, you need unstable air, and you need moist air or high humidity. The lifting action starts the air rising. Now, this can be caused by an upslope wind, or it can be caused by heating of the ground, which heats the air above it from the sun, and that's called convection. You also need unstable air, which, as you remember, is air that is much colder up above than down below, so that once that air starts rising, it will keep on rising. And finally, you need moist air, that's high humidity, to provide the heat energy for that storm to grow. As a thunderstorm grows, it progresses through three stages. The first stage is the cumulus stage, and basically that's where you have continuous updrafts. In the cumulus or growing stage, you'll have vertical cloud buildup with very strong updrafts. The second stage is the mature stage. In the mature stage, you not only have strong updrafts, as much as 6,000 feet per minute, you also have strong downdrafts, as much as 2,500 feet per minute. You can tell a thunderstorm has reached the mature stage because precipitation starts to fall from the cloud. It's the stage with the greatest intensity, and it poses the severest hazard to you as a pilot. The last stage is the dissipating stage, and that's when all the air currents are basically moving down and out, and the storm's run out of energy and is dying. During this stage, the winds at altitude usually blow the top of the cloud downwind and create that familiar anvil shape. However, this does not mean that the hazard has ended. You could still find hail, strong downdrafts, and occasional severe turbulence in the area. So far as avoiding thunderstorms is concerned, here's what you want to do. With a thunderstorm, you have enormous updrafts rushing into it and enormous downdrafts pouring out of it. And ahead of the thunderstorm, you have what's called a gust front. The gust front is caused by a downdraft that hits the ground and fans out in front of the thunderstorm. And this is one place that you'll have a great deal of wind shear and turbulence. It's an area that you absolutely, positively should stay away from, particularly when you're taking off and landing. On takeoff and during landing, your aircraft does not have the capability to cope well with the drastic changes in wind direction and wind velocity that you'll experience in a gust front. So the rule is, do not take off or land in the face of an approaching thunderstorm. If you do, you're likely to get hit by that oncoming gust front. It's the sudden wind shifts or low-level turbulence associated with it that could cause you to lose control and absolutely, positively ruin your entire day. Also, do not attempt to fly under a thunderstorm, even if you can see through to the other side. Sometimes the rain underneath a thunderstorm will not be heavy enough to hamper visibility, so you can see clear through to the other side of the storm. And occasionally, some people look at that and say, gee, it doesn't look like it's that bad underneath. Well, turbulence and wind shear exist underneath a storm regardless of how little or much rain you see, and they could spell disaster. So don't tip fate. Don't try to slide underneath a thunderstorm, particularly if you're around the mountains. A thunderstorm sitting on top of a mountain ridge will compound all the turbulence and wind problems that are present normally near mountain ridges. And when you're doing your pre-flight planning, don't attempt to plot a course between thunderstorms. Fly around the darn area. Don't try and pick your way through it, because thunderstorms can grow drastically and new ones can pop up all the time. If half or more of the area is already covered with thunderstorms, you have very little room to run if other storms start popping up in front of you. So how far do you want to remain from thunderstorms? Well, at least 20 miles. And if you've got two thunderstorms, both severe, both giving intense radar echoes, how far apart do they need to be for you to try and fly between them? An absolute minimum of 40 miles apart. And even that might be pushing it a bit. You do want to have a lot of room to remain clear of the turbulence. Now, how about flying under the clouds close to the storm? One of the things you want to do is definitely stay out from under the anvil cloud. Hail can be thrown from the anvil, falling on you and possibly damaging your Skyhawk. It's also very common to find hail in the clear air adjacent to the storm itself. The hail is thrown quite literally sideways out of the storm. Now, anytime you see vivid and frequent lightning, it's telling you that you're almost certainly looking at a severe thunderstorm. So if you've got a severe thunderstorm with vivid and frequent lightning, what do you want to do? Avoid it by at least 20 miles. So the next time you see something like this, wait it out. You really don't want to mess with these atmospheric granddaddies. If you're like me, admire them on video. They're so much nicer, prettier even, when you confront them from your easy chair.